Hey there, Georgie here with Ukraine Matters. Guys, finally high quality video as I am back in studio. So we're gonna go and do the Frontline update right away. Unfortunately, on my way back from Ukraine, I gotten sick, so forgive me the red face and a bit of coughing. But it should not stop you from hearing all of the good news because news are indeed great. So firstly, let's understand where we are. Now, last year, we focused a lot about the situation that is happening around Mirnograd, Pokrovsk, right? And we will cover that. But the truth of the matter was, for all of the people that are following this war sort of like once a month, they were looking at how much territory Russia has captured. And to be honest, majority of that territory was actually in the south, the South Donetsk area, the area B that I'm drawing right now. And in this area, Ukrainians did indeed have a bit of issue. If you remember, I was complaining, stating that there was issues with command, there was issues with some of the territorial defense forces that were located in the area. And Ukrainians had pretty much, like it was the most problematic area in sort of like a Russian advance sense, right? Because while there was intense fighting in Pokrovsk, Mirnograd, it was pretty competent and Ukrainians did a great job there. We now heard about the casualty ratios. And if you know, like around Kupiansk, where Russians got absolutely annihilated, the ratio that we understood was about 1 to 27, which is pretty insane, but that number was confirmed. But now we also heard about the number of Russian losses around Pokrovsk, Mirnograd, and over the Russian attacks in this area, the ratio is actually 1 to 10. So it's really, 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 really bad for Russians. So the only kind of problematic area that I said that I would like us to focus is the southern Donetsk area, because this is where Russians were advancing and they were actually doing so well that at some point they were able to exert so much pressure that even capture a pretty important logistical hub called Huliai-Polye, which is located right over here. And Huliai-Polye was basically sort of a breaking point. There was a bit of command change. There was a lot of talks about the southern Donetsk direction. And it was really interesting for me to see what will be the outcome. Well, now we have some results of that. Not only Russians, even after capturing Huliai-Polye, had trouble advancing. We noted that the tempo of capturing any of Ukrainian settlements slowed down significantly. But now, exploiting some of the bad weather and also the issues that Russia is having with their communications, with the Starlink now being disabled, now Ukrainians are actually even counterattacking. And they're counterattacking so well that they are even going so much that beyond some of the front line. Now, Ukrainians are attacking a lot of places, pretty much all across the front line. Russians are reporting that all of these gray area settlements, they're pretty much lost for Russia. Ukraine, in current framework of the war, they have pretty big gray area. We're going to talk about this at some other point. It's a lengthy explanation. But what you need to know that there's about 15 kilometers of sort of a no man's land. So with Ukrainians actually dedicating a lot of armored vehicles and actually pushing the Russians back, that is actually pretty impressive. But more importantly is actually what that was happening kind of in the last week and a half. But it didn't stop. And already recently, we actually got reports that areas that used to be controlled by Russians are now supposedly controlled by Ukrainians, as Ukrainians have been shown in certain videos standing on the Russian flags. This is a big change. And the counterattacks are not only happening here all across the southern Donetsk front line, they're also happening here around Zaporizhia, where Russians were pushing Ukrainians a little bit. Primorske supposedly got liberated, Lukyanivske, also Ukrainians have been very successful. And there's actually even reports that Stepnohirsk is now being contested once again in favor of Ukraine. There are also reports that Ukrainians are counterattacking around Siversk area and also around Liman area, the big city that Russia really wants to capture. So Ukrainians are being very active right now on the front line. This is specifically what I said in one of my videos in Ukraine when the Starlinks got disabled. I stated that there's going to be a window of opportunity for Ukrainians because a lot of Ukrainian Starlinks got disabled as well. But as the Ukrainian Starlinks got activated because of the new system, then Ukrainians will get a little bit of benefit. And I think this also paints a much more serious picture for the Russian, right? We like to perceive that Russia is this some kind of unstoppable force, like a lot of the propagandists are trying to paint this. Yet here we see like one thing change, and suddenly it's not unstoppable anymore. Suddenly Ukrainians are getting pretty active in their defense, and they're actually contesting a lot of the Russian areas. And I mean, there has nothing been confirmed, but there is also heavy fighting happening right now in Mirnograd, Pokrovsk, which, by the way, just for the record, everyone said that it's going to be gone and done for by September last year. It still isn't. We're already mid to late February here, and it's nothing even close to being done for Russia. It is really, really, really bad right now what is happening for Russia. They have major issues with communication. The supposed substitute for the Starlink turned out to be very problematic. It's a big dish, like a huge dish that is connecting to some of the Russian satellites. And this dish not only is a great target, but it turns out that they're also not producing it in any kind of reasonable quantities. And Russians are right now in a full meltdown on their social networks about the fact that they want to, because Russians don't understand how market economy works, so they want to like, oh, we need to hang all of these profiteers that are putting high prices for these these satellite dishes, because for them, you know, supply demand is too hard of a topic. They don't understand in their small brains. So what does it mean for the total Ukrainian defense? As I said, at some point we're going to talk about details, because now I have a lot more understanding on how the front line works. But for Russia, their goal for this year was to capture the areas surrounding Kramatorsk, Sloviansk. It is very clear that they would not be able to capture these two towns this year. It's too big of a fortress. It's really, really massive. But what they should have been able to do is they would need to capture Drushkivka. They would need to capture completely Chasiv Yar, which, by the way, Ukrainians are reporting that there could be some success in Chasiv Yar. Yes, Chasiv Yar that Russia supposedly captured is now the reports are that Ukrainians might be pushing Russians out of there. They would need to capture this high ground to the east of Kramatorsk, Sloviansk. And more importantly, they would also need to capture Liman, which is to the north of this area. And I mean, ideally, they would want to also kind of push where that breakthrough was to kind of complete the encirclement, if you would understand what I mean here. So sort of like, if this is like Ukrainian defensive positions, Russians would want to get into this position, and then maybe a year after that, they would be able to capture. Not achieving even single one of these would already sabotage Russian operation for the next year. But now, with huge issues that Russia is having, with the reports that they're having issues conscripting a lot more people, with the reports that their economy is right now struggling a lot of their defense producers are having big trouble. And again, now I'm back in studio, so that is coming for you as well. Russia here is looking not only not being able to capture the underlying areas this year and completing their goal on the Kramatorsk, Sloviansk, they are now more than 2 years away from achieving any kind of goal in hopes of getting these fortified positions in Donbass. This is incredibly bad news for Russians. Like, they cannot afford, because Russia is fighting only propaganda war, and now they got problems with communications, and suddenly their whole narrative completely falls apart. And I think this is just beautiful. And this, in large sense, is thanks to you, because you are continuing supporting the fundraiser that we're doing for the 93rd Brigade's Black Raven Battalion. So we are already over 170,000 in. Continue participating, continue supporting Ukraine. But I have a very special message from you right from the frontline city of Kramatorsk that we just talked about. Here we go.
Так кожного разу, коли комбат приїжджає. Здавати треба.
Hey there, Georgie here with Ukraine Matters. I'm here specially with the representative of the 93rd Brigade's Black Raven Battalion, Bankomat. It's been a pleasure. I'm pretty sure you've known this person before. He appeared in the last video I did, but I want to give you an update directly. I'm sure you haven't thought that you will see me here, but I'm visiting east of Ukraine, Kramatorsk, and I'm checking out the special deliveries that we're doing right now. We've delivered Starlinks, many of them, which is, by the way, Russians are now going to be very jealous about. And there's going to be additional printers here delivered as well. All of these, I think, super relevant, but I'll give a word to actually talk about this more to you.
Друзі, я хотів від імені батальйону безпілотних систем Black Raven подякувати фонду «Лапки Дзиги» і сказати просто одне просте, але дуже важливе слово. Дякую. Я знаю, що назва фонду пішла від імені собаки Дзига, від її лапки, яку вона випадково поставила на формі, яку потім відправили військовому. Хотів би сказати, що хай цей такий дуже символічний логотип стане проявом того, що ви допомагаєте не тільки реальну силу нам проявляти, але й даруєте нам дуже теплу і ту турботу, і цю лапу, яка нам допомагає берегти нашу землю і знищувати ворога.
And I want to say that Ukraine Matters community is working hard, and we will continue working hard with even participating so close. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Ukraine Matters, Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава!
Yes, you saw it right. So if you were wondering why there was so few videos or why the quality was so shit, it was because I went to the east, to the front line. I was there, I saw everything, and now I have a first-hand account of everything that is happening there, and I shook hands of all of the people that we are helping to. And guys, we have a very special flag that is going to be coming your way. We're going to raffle it up at some point for the fundraiser, so stay tuned, support Ukraine, Slava Ukraini, I love you, and I will see you next time.